The idea behind situational awareness originated in the military many decades ago. I'm not particularly interested in its military applications, but I am interested in how it applies in people management. And in this video, I'm going to explain why you should be too. Hey, how's it going? This is Scruffy Leadership, a YouTube channel about management and leadership aimed particularly at software engineers. So what is situational awareness? It really is what it sounds like, being aware of your situation. But the reason I felt it was worth making a video about it is because there's a lot more to it than you might think. Most, though not all, of situational awareness is awareness of other people. If you're in a meeting, then this means being aware of the relationships between you and the other people in the room, and the relationships they have with each other, as well as the relationships they have with other people that aren't in the room, but which have a bearing on the current situation. That's a fairly static thing, which maybe changes fairly slowly over months or years, but there's also things that can vary extremely rapidly. Someone's mood, how engaged someone is, what someone's currently focused on, which might not be what the rest of the room are focused on. Then there's awareness in the other direction. What impact are you having on the people around you? If you're in a room full of people who are senior to you, you'll be interacting differently, probably, from if you're in a meeting with your reports. And that's as it should be. It doesn't mean being dishonest or being untrue to yourself or anything like that, but it does mean acknowledging that the situation affects things and that the best way to engage depends on that situation. For example, what tone should you use in a discussion doesn't just depend on how you feel about the topic, it also depends on who else is in the room and what relationships they all have with you, with each other, and with the topic. So, for example, if you're discussing killing a project, you'll want to engage quite differently depending on whether anyone in the room is part of that project. So when you walk into a meeting or any other situation at work, you want to start by considering the situation and what it means. Who's here? Who's not here? Is someone looking unusually unhappy or worried? What's the history of this topic? What happened last time you discussed it? But it doesn't stop there. Things will change during a meeting. If you make a point and someone reacts badly to it, you want to take that into account in how you proceed. Doesn't mean you have to retract what you said and only say things that will make everyone happy. Far from it. But if you recognize that something you've said or something someone else has said has led to an emotional reaction from someone in the room, then you should take that into account. Perhaps even acknowledge it. Say something like, I know not everyone agrees with this, but, or I want to acknowledge that this topic might be particularly hard for some people here because, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you shouldn't pick one person out, which might make them even more uncomfortable, but by acknowledging that you're aware that there are different views in the room, you create space for people to be more open with their feelings, which is likely to lead to a good outcome more quickly. Okay, so far I've talked about situational awareness in the context of a single meeting, but it also applies at other scales. For example, what are the general dynamics like in your team? Are there people that are not getting on? If so, what can you do to help with that? Maybe nothing, but being aware of it can mean you can consider offering help or perhaps just be ready to respond helpfully when someone asks you for help. What about the state of a project? If a project deadline is looming, that can often mean that everyone involved in the project is a bit more stressed than usual. You probably can't fix that, but by being aware of it, you can show empathy to your team, offer them support if they need it, and be in a better position to understand if you're seeing unexpected behaviors. This doesn't mean you should tolerate bad behavior just because people are stressed, but it is something you can take into account when you're thinking about how to respond to it. So far, I've mostly talked about being aware of bad things, but you should also be aware of the good things. Someone's project has just successfully hit an important milestone. Someone else has made a huge improvement in an area you previously gave them feedback on. As ever, there isn't a single obligatory action to take in such situations, but if you're aware of what's going on, you'll be in a much better position to consider what the right way to respond is. You might walk over to your team member that hit the important milestone and congratulate them. For the team member that's been following your advice after you gave them some feedback, mention privately in a one-to-one that you've noticed how much progress they've made and tell them how pleased you are. Another way to think about situational awareness is this. If as a manager you build a kind of bubble around yourself that stops you from observing the world around you, or if you do observe it but you make no effort to consider what it means, then you're depriving yourself of incredibly important information that you need to be able to do a good job as a manager. It's like a software engineer that refuses to write unit tests. I've talked a bit in this video about recognizing behavioral issues in your team in times of stress. If you want to hear some thoughts about how to deal with really severe behavioral problems from your team members, check out this video here. And if you found the tips in this video useful, please subscribe to the channel. I have lots more useful insights to share. And if you really found it useful, consider hitting the like button, which helps this video reach more people like you that are looking for advice on becoming a better manager. Bye. See you soon.